For some reason, that slide was deleted, a virus in there. Anyway, it was a picture of one of the guys that I worked with. So while in Russia, I didn't hear about the term social entrepreneurship, but I knew I wanted to start something that was for profit, but had a social mission. The average salary in Russia at the time was $40, so professors, doctors, lawyers, they all made $40 a month, and life was really difficult. So I found a lot of talent in engineering, a lot of talent in language, and I struggled to learn Russian for those first 3 months. So we built a software platform to learn Russian that was used by people in dozens of countries. And ultimately, the folks that started the company with us made some money, and also made money for a school. So that was my first experience with social entrepreneurship. So I got the bug thinking that this works. We can start something that actually has a social cause that produces profit, but also produces some social good. So I came back and I did some work in microfinance. Access to capital is a problem. And so I worked with a community lending institution that provided capital to entrepreneurs that did not have access to capital. And in doing so, I met an incredible woman named Robin Danner, who runs the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement. And she had this vision that she wanted to create tech jobs for Native Hawaiians on homelands. And I thought that was a pretty fantastic idea, being from the homelands myself. So I helped her get the organization started, and I fell in love with the mission that I joined her full time to lead the organization. And so her vision ultimately became what is known as HHT, or Hawaiian Homestead Technology. And I won't go into all the details, but this group essentially set up 3 production facilities in the state of Hawaii. One in Anahola on Kauai, the first one, second one in Waimanalo, third one in Papakolea. And as you know, the homelands here are economically challenged for many reasons, but not challenged with talent. There are just so many talented people on these homelands that don't have access to the jobs within their community. So we found lots of folks. We taught them HTML. We taught them XML, which are languages much harder than the language of the internet. We taught them CAD, or computer-aided drafting. And these are folks that many of them didn't complete high school. I don't think anybody went to college. We sent everybody to a community college. We did paired teaching, and we launched these facilities and ultimately created millions of dollars of revenue that went to create jobs in these communities, as well as fund the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement. So that was my first experience with a larger social venture that made me go, wow, this really does work. There's no private owner in this, so every dollar that was made went to a social cause. But the more amazing thing about this was that HHT, here's some press I liked. I liked that the press covered, some of the Hawaiians going. We sent some folks to advanced training in New York, for example, and folks that have never left Hawaii. It was just amazing to see folks blossom that way. This is the facility in Waimanalo, the groundbreaking for that. But the amazing thing is that HHT was really just one part of a national venture. And this national venture was called the Intertribal Information Technology Company. And it included people in Alaska, Native Americans, Alaska villagers, where about 14 production facilities across 8 states were set up just like Hawaii, where they were located on reservations or homelands, and jobs were created for folks in these communities. And I don't know the final numbers right now, but they've completed roughly 6 million documents that they've done for their clients. And that translates to about $70 million in revenue for these communities. And I've been to some of these communities. How many of you guys have been to an Indian reservation? So more than homeland. So some of these reservations have 80% unemployment. Can you believe that? No, nothing nearby. You have to fly to a neighboring state, drive 100 miles to get to the reservation. No trains, no infrastructure, and yet people are expected to thrive. How can you thrive in environments like that? With technology, you can. So you can create jobs where people can walk to work. Work can be done electronically and delivered. And so that's what we did. And it was a fantastic experience. So here are some of the organizations that were involved there. So the Zunis and Assiniboine Sioux and Arikara and so forth. So I had the good fortune of getting to know some of these folks and having some really good friends because of this initiative. So the trend in my life is that when things get stable and they get a little big, then I leave and start something else. So around that time, I had an idea for a friend-raising concept. So I partnered with 3 of my friends, and the concept was really simple. We were bothered by the fact that the internet made us so connected, but it was so difficult to chip in for things. So there's no mechanism for us to share the cost of something when folks are spread out in different parts of the state or different parts of the country. So we created chipin.com. And this was our take of how do we create a decentralized fundraising mechanism for anyone to raise money. So you didn't have to be a nonprofit, you didn't have to be a 501c3, you just needed to have some cause that you wanted to raise money for, and then use some of the widgets that we created. And we were essentially pioneers in this widget creation technology. We were awarded a bunch of patents in this work. And to date, about $6 million a year goes through the platform. And everything is 100% self-service. So we created a mechanism where we put no input, we put no service, but yet it's easy enough for folks to raise money instantly across their social network for whatever cost possible. And I'll share a couple of those causes. Well, this is kind of cool. When we just had the idea, so we've gotten a lot of press for some of the work that we've done before, but never like just based on the idea. So we landed on the cover of Hawaii Business when we just had the concept. We didn't write a single line of code yet, but we thought the concept was pretty cool. And then the national press sort of followed suit after that. We were on national TV as well as the national publications picked up case studies of the work that we were doing here in Hawaii. So two case stories. One type of fundraising events that we helped raise money for was just based on fun. So the student in the upper left is graduated from BYU in Provo, and the year of his graduation, his commencement speaker was Dick Cheney. And I'm not going to make any political statements here, but he wasn't happy. And so he said, you know what, I'm going to use chip-in and get my friends to chip in, and we're going to create an alternative commencement. So he set one up, asked his friends to chip in $5 or $10, and so a week later, people chipped in, friends told friends, friends told friends. So about 7 days later, he had about $28,000 in his account. So he hired Ralph Nader. He tried to get Michael Moore, who wasn't available. So Ralph Nader flew out for the event, and they had about 1,500 students apply. But they raised too much money, so they had about $20,000 extra. At the end of the event, they gave it away to charity. But so that's really interesting. So events like this happen all the time on the Chip-In platform. But not just events like this. This woman on the bottom right, her name is Monique Stein. And she just has a really heart-wrenching story. And some of the events that run through the system are of this vein. And so Monique has Strickland's disease, which is a rare genetic disorder, which if you don't take medication, you go blind. And although they had Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance, because everything just started piling up, they essentially just got into some really deep debt. And it got to the point where her two daughters inherited the disease as well, and she couldn't afford the medication for herself. And so she started not taking it for herself, and she went blind. She sacrificed her own vision so that her daughters could see. And so the Huffington Post picked up the story, wrote about her, used our technology and put up a widget saying, if you're inspired, this is her account. So Chip-In just disaggregates all of the banks and the money goes directly to different people. And so the readers within a couple of days sent about $30,000 to Monique, and she cleared her past medical debt. It was just awe-inspiring to see. So this is another type of example of what Chip-In empowers. As most startups do, startups change, and so Chip-In has also sprouted up. And about this time is when my second son was born. And as you guys know, the life of a startup entrepreneur is pretty crazy, so I wanted to spend more time with my kids. So my schedule now is 4 o'clock, I'm done, and I play with my kids, but that doesn't work with a company like Chip-In. So I left Chip-In right after we launched the second version of Chip-In, which is called Sprout. And what Sprout does is we took all of the patent work that we did on the widgets and created a generic widget platform that allowed larger companies to do what we did for fundraising, but in other types of social interactions. And so this is the website at Sprout. And so Sprout now powers the causes for a lot of Fortune 500 companies. So here's some examples of some of the work that it empowers. Like on the upper left, you see Intel was one of the clients that did a pretty fascinating thing. They created a widget with our technology, and we created essentially a technology that is like PowerPoint. You can build these really interactive, multimedia-rich widgets with no line of code. You would just drag some things and click, 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 and hit press, and you're done. So Intel built that where if people became a fan of the Facebook page that it was part of, then you would qualify for buying one of these laptops on discount. And the more people that joined, the price just dropped and dropped and dropped. And what is fascinating is 24,000 people joined, and roughly 20% of them bought a laptop at the end of the event. So it's sort of empowering a new type of commerce where group buying at a discount. Coke used it to do some environmental things or honoring youth. Toyota and MySpace, they actually launched the second version, but they did a Rock the Space, sort of American Idol style. How do we find the next act that they sign? So they used our technology. They expected about 1,600 bands to participate, and they got that in 2 hours, ended up with 20,000 bands, and they eventually signed one band who won the first Rock the Space. They have the second Rock the Space on MySpace right now, and there's 10 semifinalists, and they're using our technology as well. So that's an example of that. So Chipin and Sprout now probably manage over 1 billion widget impressions a year. Some of them for social causes, some of them just for things like you see here. This was pretty fascinating. At a recent presentation that Steve Jobs gave on the new iPhone 4, which has a new system of ads called iAd 4, he showed a Sprout widget. And probably because he's the largest shareholder at Disney. This is work we did for Disney, but he showed it up there and I was full of glee. It's nice to see how it works sort of on the national scale there. We didn't know about it before he gave the presentation, so that was really nice. So that was the world's first ad that actually remembered where you were and was integrated in your webcam. So if you saw the ad on Yahoo, you could take your picture and join the army. 1 million people did. And then if you went onto another website that had the same ad, it would know who you are and show you a picture and show you different trailers. So it was very conditional based on the way you interacted with the ad. And so that was why he showed that.